allowed to bring only 10 items to the show. Living alone in the wilderness. The Danish version of Season 8 officially returns. Still the familiar formula, same flavor as before. 7 survival experts, with extensive experience, are sent to the wilderness. In the icy Arctic region. In weather conditions of -20 degrees Celsius, they not only we have to build a shelter and find food while always being on guard for unexpected situations. In the end, those with rich survival skills will win the cash prize of $500,000, equivalent to 12.5 billion Vietnamese dong. This time, the challenge location is Lapland, in Finland, north of the Arctic Circle. The contestants were brought to the starting point by the show's seaplane. The first person to appear is named Soren. Don't be fooled by his 60-year-old appearance. In fact, he is only 40 when he just set foot on the ground. He was extremely excited, not realizing the severity of the situation. Fortunately, the landing spot had a large rock that was perfect for shelter. And the surroundings are filled with the smell of reindeer dung. This shows that the resources here are very abundant. Before joining the program, Soren was a professional blacksmith. He made a living forging iron and had crafted exhibits for many museums. At the same time, he accumulated a lot of craftsmanship experience. He joined the program out of passion. With wild nature, if he wins a prize, it would be even better. After identifying the shelter location, he began gathering materials, planning to build a slanted roof leaning against the rock wall and securing a waterproof tarp onto wooden poles, quickly creating a simple yet remarkable tent. Soren was the only one who did not bring a sleeping bag. He believed that the cowhide blanket could keep him warm. But it is unclear if it will get cold enough to freeze to death in winter. The second person to appear is Anders. This guy is unbelievably lucky. As soon as he got ashore, he discovered a natural shelter. Looking closely inside, the space seemed pretty decent. So the shelter issue was resolved immediately. He spread out a blanket and lay inside, fitting perfectly. Right in front of the entrance was an open lake, able to observe every movement around. Before joining the program, Anders was not an ordinary person. Thanks to over 10 years of living in the forest, he attracted hundreds of thousands of followers on social media platforms, living off videos teaching survival skills. His true abilities are beyond question. To get a big fire going, he shaved the wood into small chips. When striking the fire, the flames caught. The wood chips smoked successfully, helping to maintain the fire. To make it burn longer, he even went out of his way to collect some resin. This material can extend the burning time of the fire. That way, there is no need to keep adding wood. The third contestant is named Bettina. Maybe it is the first time participating, so she is quite excited internally. As soon as she set foot on the ground, she could not hold back her tears. When the yacht slowly departed, it also meant that in the coming days she would only be able to rely on herself. Looking around the lake, there was a lot of fish activity, which made her even more excited about this wilderness in her homeland of Norway. Bettina is a car mechanic, and her family owns a very large garage. Inside, there are countless modified cars. She often customizes cars based on customer requests. Additionally, she is also a professional angler. She often takes her private yacht out to sea to fish. Joining the competition is just a way for her to experience life. After quickly packing her luggage and setting up her tent, Bettina brought her specialized fishing rod to the shore. The fishing pond, the notable thing is that this time, besides the fishing rod, contestants are allowed to choose 3 favorite items. And Bettina brought a fish net. According to her understanding, this can keep fish alive in water for cold storage, but she must say that she underestimated the situation in the wild, standing by the shore with the rod for half an hour even with bait support, still could not catch anything. In the end, is it due to lack of resources or insufficient skills? It is hard to say. Annie is the second female contestant this season. Upon landing, she immediately set up a simple camp, rested a bit, then prepared her fishing rod to go fishing. To be able to live off the fish, she brought various types of bait that I have been collecting for over 10 years. It does not matter if it is a big fish or a small fish. She is confident she will catch it. With all her gear, she quickly heads to the lake shore and casts her line. As soon as it hits the water, a pike bites immediately. Oh my god, this luck is incredible. She quickly kills the fish with a rock. The fish's body is absolutely flawless. It must weigh at least 7 to 8 kilograms. I did not expect the first person to score a catch would be a female contestant. Clean the guts on the spot, discard the fish head. This will surely be a delicacy in the wild. The fifth contestant is named Klaus. He has already solved the fire problem. And even discovered a lot of mushrooms while walking around. Based on the smell, you can safely use it. Back in Denmark, Klaus runs an outdoor gear store, specializing in professional outdoor equipment. Thanks to that, he has also accumulated a lot of survival experience, often going out alone into the wild to hunt and fish, which is the reason for joining this competition. Mainly, wanted to win the prize to expand the store. However, as soon as I brought out the fishing rod to prepare for fishing from the hillside, in the distance, a herd of reindeer suddenly ran by. Unfortunately, these animals are all protected by law, so I obediently went to the lake to fish. Unexpectedly, the resources in this area are really abundant. In less than a minute, I caught a small fish. Unexpectedly, dinner came so easily as night fell. The contestants all retreated to their camps to rest. Time quickly passed to the next day. On Ani's side, it was extremely luxurious. Early in the morning, they had delicious fish soup. The fish head discarded yesterday was now being pecked by birds is such a waste because of that big head. If you get hungry later, do not regret it. At the same time, Soren wakes up in the morning, scouts around a bit and then decides to set up a net, hoping to harvest a grand feast tomorrow. Without having breakfast, he returns to the camp to continue making tools from a piece of wood in his hand, quickly turned into a handy hammer. Next is figuring out how to install the beam, measuring the distance on the roof, on the big rock, then cutting a large tree to make the main pillar for the house. Of course, also peeling off the bark. However, to erect something that big requires strength. Soren spent half a day pulling with a rope, but the beam did not move an inch. Reluctantly, he had to push it up little by little. After 2.5 hours, it was finally set up. Also setting up a shelter was Bettina. She used a tree branch as a support pole. After finishing the setup, she was panting heavily from exhaustion. A whole day and night without replenishing protein left her too weak to do anything else. So I took my fishing rod to the lake, taking advantage of the calm early morning. Who knows, I might catch a big feast, just as I imagined. Before long, the water started to ripple. I reeled it in and, sure enough, it was a pike. With sharp teeth, if I am not careful, it could take a bite out of me. This fish is quite big, enough to eat for 2 or 3 days. But for now, she is not hungry, so Bettina uses the net to keep it underwater. If any animal takes it, she will regret it deeply. Meanwhile, Anders abandons the sturdy stone shelter and deliberately heads into the forest to build a new hut, clearly wasting time and effort. He cuts several 4-meter-long poles to build the hut. You would think he was building a mansion. Erecting a long beam like this is not easy at all. I was busy all morning, and it kept collapsing at the end. Finally, when I managed to set up the frame, it fell apart while securing it. It was really unlucky. I do not understand what went wrong at this stage. Klaus was also building a shelter. He planned to make a simple triangular tent, although he had never tried it before. The triangular structure is very stable, so he found it easy. After setting up the frame, we covered it with waterproof fabric. And for the next few days, we will live in it. Once everything was done, Klaus brought his fishing rod to catch fish like he did before. As soon as he cast the line, a fish bit the hook. Judging by the weight, this fish is not small. When he pulled it up, oh my god. Its body was even bigger than a calf. This must be the biggest mackerel I have ever caught. This achievement fills Klaus with excitement. Bring it back to camp, hang it in the tent because yesterday's fish still has not been finished. Cook it briefly for half an hour over high heat. I sit in front of the camp enjoying the delicious dish, bite by bite. The protein content must be many times higher than beef. In the blink of an eye, it is already the 3rd day. Soren's side has finally reached the day to check the auxiliary net. So far, he has skipped 9 meals in 3 days. He just hopes the auxiliary net will yield some results, but when he reaches the shore and pulls it up, oh no, the net has not caught a single fish. It is even completely tangled. Back at the camp, he tries to untangle it. Restoring it to its original state is no easy task. Meanwhile, with Klaus, today's mission is to make a door for the tent. First, use a branch to measure the appropriate length. Then make a frame according to the size. And cover it with waterproof fabric. Surprisingly, it fits perfectly. Today's breakfast is quite luxurious. Klaus does not plan to store food, but chops off the fish head and stuffs the rest into a tree hollow. Both sides are sealed with bark, creating an oven-like effect. In just half an hour, the delicious dish is ready. Let us try a bite. Oh my, the fish is crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. The moment you chew, the juices fill your mouth. Its protein content is even higher than beef. Meanwhile, Anders finally finished building the shelter. Due to the weather in this area, which is quite cold, he planned to build an outdoor fireplace. He then turned around to gather stones nearby. Combined with soft moss, it was quickly built. Eager to light a fire to test its effectiveness. Unexpectedly, we did not consider the factor that the wind would blow the smoke into the tent as soon as we lit the fire, making it uninhabitable. Was all the morning's hard work in vain? After much thought, he decided to dismantle it and move to another location, which took another 2.5 hours. I thought this time it would go smoothly, but who knew? We only got halfway through when the rocks could not bear the weight. It was truly bad luck. The sense of failure immediately made Anders lose faith. It is the Olympics of the survival world, Elon. In Denmark, a new chapter begins. Besides the practical equipment provided by the production team, contestants can also choose 3 items. Some enthusiasts even brought complex bows, mechanical combinations, binoculars, and drills. Nothing was missing. According to the old rules, the last person standing will receive $500,000. On the 4th day, Rick was the 6th contestant of the season. From his appearance, one could guess he was also a hidden survival expert. Today, he lives in a tent. This temporary shelter is just because the ground is full of blueberries. You can eat them anytime. Wait until enough protein is supplemented before building a proper shelter. While sitting at the camp, drinking hot tea, a crow suddenly flew by. Rick immediately mimicked the crow's sound to see if he could attract it. Unexpectedly, the method worked. Soon enough, the crow flew over. But it only swooped over his head, not giving him a chance to draw his bow. Back home in Denmark, Rick is a professional hunter. He has exceptional archery skills. He often hunts large animals and once shot a wild boar, narrowly avoiding being trampled to death. That made him realize the dangers of wildlife. He joined the competition mainly for the prize money. But so far he has not discovered anything yet. Some little creature took the chance to practice. When free, the last player, Maddie, was also the only one carrying a bow to team up. A few days ago, to conserve energy, she only ate a few fruits from the ground, then went to the lucky fishing pond. She caught one fish but lost it while reeling it in. Before joining the competition, Maddie was an archer. Her house had all kinds of animal specimens. She demonstrated extraordinary abilities. Moreover, she is also a jewelry artisan. This proves that her family background is quite impressive. She joined to challenge herself, and after a few days, she had already set up a shelter to conveniently boil water. She planned to go out and collect some branches to make a stand. When she returned, she drove stakes into the ground, but unfortunately knocked over the pot and extinguished the campfire. Klaus's strength does not seem too strong either. Lately, he has been feeling dizzy. His heart races and does not slow down. Worried about his health, he immediately called the medical team. The doctor quickly arrived by boat. After the examination, they said it was due to not eating enough and being hungry, and advised him to eat on time. It is a minor issue, no need to worry. Switching to Soren. Today, he went out to check the fishing nets again. Thanks to his experience from last time, this time he easily caught a big catfish, cleaned its insides right there. Even though the meat did not look appetizing, he still brought it back to cook and eagerly ate it all. Notably, this was his first meal in 4 days. Just a few minutes and it is all gone. Now that I have energy, I will get to work on reinforcing the temporary shelter. Otherwise, this simple tent could easily be blown away by the wind. A few days ago, I started building a permanent shelter. Judging by its size, you could call it a mansion. Just a wild one. Not sure if it will hold up once it is done, still working on it. Seems like Anders has too much free time, so he is planning to build a kitchen for the camp. A stick up between 2 large tree trunks and use a sawed piece of wood as a base. Even an iron pot can be easily hung up. That way kitchen utensils can be neatly placed on it. While walking outside, he discovered a dry tree trunk. This type of tree has bark that contains a lot of oil. Just a spark and it ignites. He immediately collected it to use when winter comes. Then he went to the lake to check the fish traps. But the more he pulled them up, the cleaner they were. Even cleaner than his own face. Seeing that he had not caught any fish for 2 days straight, he decided to move the traps to another spot. On the 5th day, Annie was fishing by the shore when suddenly she discovered something interesting. A herd of reindeer ran right in front of her. These creatures seem completely unafraid of humans. Unfortunately, the competition rules do not allow hunting during the opening phase, otherwise, at this close range, shooting an arrow would be an instant win. Then Annie went to the usual spot to check the fish traps she had set. Indeed, whatever she thought of, she got it. This time, she successfully caught a large mackerel. Moreover, every time we catch one, we return to the camp and start cooking. Unexpectedly, the fish had roe inside. Cut off the fish head and grill it next to the pot. Surely it will taste better than boiling it on Bettina's side. After 5 days of setting up camp, we finally completed the frame. Then we laid the waterproof tarp on top. Because the roof is too flat, it might accumulate water. She even specifically raised the middle part with a shelf. At this speed, it will probably be finished by tomorrow. For lunch, we will cook some fish to stave off hunger. Luckily, we did not eat it all a few days ago. Otherwise, working on an empty stomach would be unbearable. As night falls, Rick is also eating fish at the camp. The more he eats, the better. Only by eating well can he endure longer until Friday. Today is Rick's son's birthday. Thinking about his beloved child early in the morning while cooking fish, he could not hold back his tears. But when he thought about the $500,000, he tried to suppress his emotions. Then Rick took his gear to the lakeshore and brought out the battle boat. That took him 2.5 days to build. For the past few days, he had been trying to improve the raft. Today is finally the day. To test the results, he sat on the raft and paddled away, planning to use the raft to set the net. Unexpectedly, the process encountered continuous problems. Had to go back to secure the support frame. But just as the net was being placed, one side of the raft suddenly started leaking, and before there was time to react, it flipped over. The water and even the life vest around the neck immediately came off. Luckily, the lake was not very deep. He quickly scrambled back to the shore, on Bettina's side, so he would not have to sleep directly on the ground at night. She decided to make a single bed for the camp. The bed frame was made entirely of large pieces of wood, each as thick as a thigh, carried to the middle of the tent. Then, small branches were laid on top, followed by a layer of soft twigs. Finally, a blanket was placed on top. When she tried lying down, the length and size were just right. At this moment, Anders was planning to do something significant. To repair the net, he intended to join several pieces of wood together. Together like this, we can expand the scope of the preliminary survey grid by pacing it out, then a wooden beam up to 14 meters long. Luckily, before the competition, he brought a drill as a custom tool. This tool is very useful when building a house. Then he used the drill to create a small hole and then connected to another wooden piece with a mortise structure. Then drill through the small hole in the middle at the end. Finally, use a wooden peg to secure both ends, so you have a joint that can move. Once finished, he added several anchor points on the wood. Then took the completed frame to the lake, gradually securing the net to the anchor points. When all the wooden pieces were placed in the water, the next step is just waiting for it to be done. Back at the camp, I am starving. But the fish from earlier has already been eaten to fill the stomach. Anders thinks about tree bark. The inner bark of pine trees is rich in vitamin C. He cuts it into thin strips and brings it back to camp. First, he boils it in a pot. Then, he grills it on the pot lid and tries a piece. The taste is somewhat acceptable, just a bit hard to chew. Over to Klaus. So far, he has gone 3 days without eating fish. Today, he went to his usual spot to fish with some grain bait, skillfully standing by the lake all morning. But within half an hour, his hook suddenly got stuck in the rocks. No matter how hard he tried, he could not get it out. In the end, he had to cut the fishing line, right? Not only losing the bait but also wasting both the hook and the line. A whole section was wasted by the 7th day. Anders checked the nets he had set up, hurriedly pulling them up, but the more he pulled, the lighter they felt. In the end, there was no catch, and the fishing line got tightly tangled with a branch. There was no other way but to use a small knife to cut it off. Caused the device that on painstakingly built to become a complete failure and a heavy blow that made Anders lose faith in whether he could hold on for many more days. It is really hard to say. Switching to Soren. Early in the morning, he watered the plants and put them in a pot to cook up a batch of soap with a special added fragrance. By going outside to pick rosemary leaves, crushed and put into the pot, in just half an hour, the whole pot of soap thickened unusually and was ready. According to him, this dish can help remove all the dirt from the body. After that, he took off all his clothes and went to the riverbank to bathe. The icy water refreshed Soren, awakening his spirit. Returning to the camp, his whole body felt elevated to another level. Bettina, after 2.5 hours of effort, finally caught an old fish in the lake. Just before it got dark. After days of hunger, we can finally eat meat. But just at that moment, a yacht came across the lake. Turns out it was the medical staff coming to conduct their regular health check to ensure the contestants can continue competing normally. Before leaving, they reminded everyone that winter is coming. And we need to prepare good measures to stay warm before the temperature drops. In no time, it was the 8th day as predicted. Last night, the weather started to get unusually cold, so Anders decided to shorten his shelter a bit to keep it warmer. Then he covered the roof with moss. This way, we won't have to worry about the cold attacking us anymore, and at the same time, the other contestants also started upgrading their shelters. On Cloud's side, he planned to make himself a bed. First, he roughly determined the position, then cut a few wooden sticks and hammered them into the ground. Next, he placed a bunch of sticks on top. Finally, he laid a fur blanket on it, and it was done. As for Soren, he also brought a drill to use to drill a hole from the roof, then cut some sticks to use as nails to secure, so that the structure of the house would be solid. Of course, the top layer still needs to be covered with moss to make the roof. It looks like this work will take at least 4 to 5 days. Meanwhile, on the other side, Bettina also started building her tent. However, she did not account for the wind direction. As soon as she sat in the tent, thick smoke quickly spread. It seems like to live comfortably, she still needs to make improvements. It is the 9th day and the weather is getting colder. Rick has to quickly finish his permanent shelter. Currently, his progress is the slowest. He spread the waterproof fabric over the frame, tied 2 sticks at the main entrance to fix the roof. Carefully climbed up, he used a waterproof fabric as a cover above. It does not block the smoke from escaping and also prevents rain and snow. The excess part under the tent was cut off completely to avoid the edges of the fabric from wearing out. He lightly heated it with fire afterward. Moved all the belongings to the new place in Soren's area. He woke up early, washed his face, and continued tidying up the place. At first, he planned to build a villa somewhere else. But after a few days, he realized he did not have enough strength. So he gave up and expanded the temporary shelter. Looking at the walls, it did not look much different from a villa. Starving all morning, Soren decided to go fishing at the lake. This is the first bite of fish I have had since the beginning. Doing heavy work without enough protein is unbearable. Without a bow to hunt, I can only rely on fishing. Just as I said that, the fishing line started to shake. I did not expect the fish to bite so quickly. I immediately pulled it in. Maybe because I was too hungry. I did not continue fishing but went back to camp. First, I fried the fish eggs in a pan. Tasting just one bite, the deliciousness is indescribable, soft and chewy. Slightly firm, rich in flavor, even better than beef. In less than 2 minutes, it was all gone without a trace. As for Annie, she is probably one of the few who has stocked up on food. In the morning, she only ate a simple fish tail. In such harsh conditions, 3 meals must be divided carefully. After eating, Annie planned to add another layer of insulation to the tent. Because the tent was too high and there was no ladder, she had to throw pieces of moss up, planning to rest for a while, but the freezing cold made it impossible for her to sleep. At that moment she realized the importance of a fireplace. So she took her backpack to the riverbank to collect stones. Arranged the stones in a circle to make a fire pit, to avoid the smoke. She even made a hole in the roof for a skylight. When night falls, inside finally warms up a little. On the 10th day, Klaus brought his rod back to the usual spot to fish. But the colder it got, the fewer fish there were. These past few days, he has come back empty-handed. He tried changing bait several times but still caught nothing. With no other choice, he had to go back to the tooth net from last time. Just looking at the net makes your mouth water. But taking it apart is exhausting and might not even work. Unable to hold back, Klaus pulled out a knife and cut it right away. You can't help but admire him for being such a decisive person. He set up the remaining net along the lake shore and walked around the area to lure fish in. Now, all they can do is hope for a miracle tomorrow. Meanwhile, on Maddie's side, is one of the few archers left on the field. Today she brought a compound bow up the mountain to hunt. First she used a whistle to mimic the sound of small birds. Then she carefully observed her surroundings. But after walking a short distance, Maddie suddenly felt dizzy, her vision blurred, and her ears buzzed, as if the wind was whistling through. It seems she was so hungry that she started hallucinating, afraid of fainting from exhaustion. In the wilderness, she decided to turn back and run to be safe. While passing by the lake, she discovered some reeds. These contain a lot of carbohydrates. Not daring to delay, she immediately put them in a pot to cook. As long as there is food, it must not be wasted. Boil it over high heat for 3 hours, and finally, it is done. But it was already dark, so she only drank a little boiled water to warm her stomach. She saved the rest for breakfast the next morning. On the 11th day, Maddie picked mushrooms growing on the birch tree again. It is said that these are very fragrant when used to brew coffee. She ground them into powder and poured them into a pot of boiling water. When she poured it out, the color looked quite perfect. She drank a few sips to warm herself up. Brought the bow out for hunting again. Unfortunately, around here, there is nothing. Kept wandering but could not find any animals. Still, this trip was not in vain. Discovered a bunch of berries growing on the ground. She quickly gathered them near where Bettina lives. In such a desolate place, it is hard not to think of family. So she even carved images of her loved ones onto a wooden plank. However, during the survival process, this did not help at all. After a quick cleanup, she went to the fishing pond. Unexpectedly, this area was rich in resources. In less than 3 minutes, she caught a big fish. While she was retrieving the fish, she noticed a small bird was eyeing a piece of her fish. Unexpectedly, she was not angry but instead, if you have leftover food, you should store it. Why give it to the birds? Switching to Rick, he is a top hunter. He is always looking for sources of protein around him. Unfortunately, resources in this area are very scarce. There are not even small squirrels in the forest. Wandering around for half a day without finding anything, he had to pick some wild fruits to stave off hunger and return to camp. I planned to rest for a while, but the shelter was leaking everywhere. It was unbearably cold, so I had to go out and chop wood. While chopping trees in the wild, you have to be extremely careful. Because if a tree falls on you, no one will come to save you. Vic was so cautious he became panicked. It took him half an hour to finish chopping. Then he went to the lake to check the fish nets. Luckily, he was not empty-handed. He caught a fish weighing more than 2.5 kilograms. But on the way back, his shoe got cut by a rock. Vic guessed the sole must have been torn. However, he did not have time to fix it now. He just went back to camp to cook the fish. Meanwhile, Klaus was praying at the camp, hoping to catch some fish because today is the day to check the nets. Gently pulling the nets out of the lake. Unexpectedly, after 3 days, there was finally a fish caught. Too hungry, he immediately returned to the camp to cook. With premium ingredients, just grilling over the fire is enough. Wait until the surface is charred. Then you can safely enjoy it. Moving on to day 12. Soren's luxurious house has basically taken shape. In addition to a warm and comfortable resting area, there is also a blazing fire nearby. Above, there is even a convenient ventilation window. Even the gaps in the walls have been sealed without leaving any openings. However, at the current pace, it will still be a while before his vision is fully realized, is to build the most luxurious shelter in the area. Then he found some more sticks to cover, with a waterproof tarp to prevent leaks. He even added some moss on top for extra coverage. Breakfast consisted of wild mushrooms gathered nearby. It is said they taste quite similar to oil mushrooms. They were used to make soup, which was tasty and added a bit of energy. Then he started wandering around again to collect branches. What used to be so simple has now become difficult. The plan is to expand the entire shelter out to the cliff. Just by looking, you can tell the workload is no small task. On Matthew's side, he wakes up in the morning to cook a pot of roots. That serves as both breakfast and lunch for today. After that, he continues to take the fishing rod to go fishing. Because hunting is completely out of the question. Could it be that even fishing is a bust? But no. In less than half an hour, a small fish bit the hook. I do not understand why foreigners think like that. He only caught 1 fish and immediately returned. This is the first fish Maddie has caught since he started playing. The fish's tender meat melts in the mouth, making the whole body feel completely rejuvenated. Finally, we do not need to eat grass to survive anymore. She finished the fish meat in less than 10 minutes. At the same time, Rick was also struggling with food issues because he had been focusing on hunting for the past few days. So he caught very few fish. In a desperate moment, he thought about eating tree bark. He started using a small knife to scrape it bit by bit. The thinner the bark, the better it tastes. Then put it in the pot. Cook for over 2.5 hours. By the afternoon, he also had a meal that could be considered somewhat tasty. However, the tree bark was not as delicious as expected. It was tough and very hard to chew. But in this situation, having something to fill the stomach was already good enough. While strolling along the shore after finishing the meal, suddenly, he noticed the float on the fishing rod moving. He immediately grabbed it, and just as expected, when he reeled it in, he saw a small fish, about 125 grams. He was so happy he could not contain himself. It seemed eating tree bark earlier was a waste of effort. Back at the camp, he cut off the fish's tail to grill and saved the rest for tomorrow. Meanwhile, Klaus, when he saw the water in the pot had frozen, he realized that winter was approaching. Since he did not build a fireplace, he could only rely on the bonfire to keep warm. This meant that every night before sleeping, he had to put out the fire. And at night, he relied on his body's endurance. Fortunately, besides all that, the important thing was that he still had food reserves. Today, you do not need to leave the house to eat to your heart's content. Another person who started eating tree bark is Soren, due to his intense training. Every day, his body consumes a lot of energy, so he slices the bark thinly, cooks it like noodles, then hangs it up to dry. When he has free time, he can eat it like a snack. As for building the villa, in the forest, you can't stop even for a minute. Use the drill to make holes, insert screws, and secure wooden stakes. This method is not only convenient for securing but also much sturdier than ropes. Over on Bettina's side, today is a special day for her. She goes outside and uses tree bark to make a white flag and plants it in the ground. According to her. So, has your goal in this place been accomplished? There is no need to stay any longer. Right after that, a yacht rushed over. Without much hesitation, she decided to withdraw. The reason was that there were too few fish here, completely beyond her imagination. At this moment, what she wanted most was to go home and eat fried chicken and hamburgers. It seems she arrived at this place a bit late. Then Miss Thursday packed her bags and left here. As winter approaches, a big snowstorm is coming. How will the contestants cope? While other contestants are still gnawing on tree bark. To survive, someone has caught a fish weighing up to 3 kilograms, which not only easily ensures their protein intake, but also allows them to start building a windproof and rainproof villa in the forest. Before the coming winter, having sufficient food reserves is the key to securing victory. By the 14th day, Rick took his bow outside to hunt. By this time, the morning temperature was near freezing. To catch the small birds around, he would almost every morning go out to try his luck. He planned to use whistling sounds to lure them in. But after blowing for half an hour, still no sign of anyone. It was so cold I could not stand it. So I had to go back to the camp to warm up next to Maddie. Waking up in the morning, I saw the teacup was covered in ice. The ropes in the camp were frozen solid like steel. It showed just how cold it had been over the past few days. Because it was so cold, she did not go outside but started building a fireplace instead. If we wait until winter, it will be unbearable. Maddie's idea was to build a chimney outside the tent so we could light a fire and stay warm inside without the smoke smell. So, we had to build a wall in the middle. It was not a small task, and she had to work all day to get it done. The next task, perhaps, would take 2 or 3 more days to complete. Meanwhile, Soren, he keeps building wild villas and forgets about getting protein. Working at high intensity makes his body always on the verge of exhaustion. I wonder if he can break the rule of giving up after finishing the villa to avoid feeling homesick. In his free time, he does crafts. With the eating style of 3 days starving, 9 meals full. By the time the villa is finished, you might have already given up. It is truly unbelievable. Comparing Rick's shelter, it is probably the most basic one. So far, all he has is a waterproof sheet to brace for the upcoming cold winter. He needs to reinforce it. He is starting to build a tent frame with wooden sticks and cover it up. A waterproof tarp, fearing heavy snowfall, would not hold up. I built an additional support frame on the roof. After finishing those tasks, I was starving, so I went to the lake to fish. The resources in this area are truly abundant. Before long, I caught a small fish. Back at the camp, I quickly chopped some firewood, started a fire, and grilled the fish to eat. In just half an hour, I was enjoying a delicious, tender, and sweet meal. Eating like a feast. Kept eating endlessly without getting bored until the 15th day. Klaus woke up hungry. The waters ahead were whereon Hay fished on the 6th day. Due to carelessness, the bait got stuck in the crevice of the rocks. Good quality bait was limited. Losing one reduced the chances, so he took off all his clothes. Diving naked into the freezing water to retrieve it showed great courage. This is definitely the one who will last until the end. Luckily, we managed to get the bait back. Back to the camp, pack up the fishing rods, then head to the lake to continue fishing. Unfortunately, we did not catch anything all day. Frustrated, he went ashore to gather bark. Not to eat, but to store firewood for the winter. He also collected a lot of firewood. So that when the snow falls heavily in winter, he won't have to go outside. Hungry and working non-stop. After the last 2.5 hours, I managed to gather a big bag of firewood and kindling. Now I can stay at the camp and wait. Tonight's dinner is simple, just a few blueberries, not expecting to feel full, just hoping not to be hungry. Over to Annie, she might be the most stable performer on the battlefield. Every day, she tries fishing at the lake. Although in many cases, she often goes empty-handed. But that does not affect her mood. However, the weather quickly started to bring heavy snow, making the usually calm person begin to worry. She went back to gather wooden sticks to reinforce the shelter, planning to cover all the walls of the tent completely. But for a fragile girl, this is certainly a task, spending a lot of time and effort. She did not eat or drink all day because she was so busy, and finally completed the task before nightfall. While walking around, she also discovered a skull. This item is a good find. Perfect for decorating the walls of the camp next to Soren. He had gone 2 days without eating but kept on building. The shelter was determined to finish the house before winter. However, his body was very weak. He could only work a little before needing to rest. When he returned to the camp, he set aside a few nails, so he could hang things up. For easy access on the 16th day, Maddie cut a bunch of reeds early in the morning. These past few days, she has been relying on them to survive. Went outside to check, the warehouse is still empty. Rested a bit, then did not give up. She went back to the lake to fish. It has been a week since she last ate fish, so she was craving protein desperately. Just a moment later, the fishing line showed signs. She quickly reeled it in. The more she pulled, the heavier it quickly got stuck on a wooden stick by the shore. When she tried to use the stick to reel in, the fish almost. It was in his hand but suddenly let go. What a pity. On the other side, Soren is busy fixing the fishing nets. Just building a house without food is not enough. He brings the gear to the lake, using a stick to push the net into the water. According to the rules, they will check it tomorrow. While everyone is worried about the fish, Rick luckily catches one. Hastily cuts it open to find the fish meat is very delicious. On the 17th day, as the most professional hunter, Rick woke up before dawn, planning to go hunt small game, which is truly a basic skill of professional hunters. He went to a hill and started hiding. Quickly, a shadow ran by. Judging by the shape, it was definitely a fox. But before he could draw his bow, the fox had already disappeared. Even though you used the whistle to call around, you still could not find it. It is such a pity. If you had caught it, at least you could have survived another half a month without any problem. Reluctantly, you had to return to the camp to warm up because you could not catch any animals on the mountain, so you switched to fishing. However, due to some negligence a few days ago, the pessimistic boat got a hole in it. You have to use carry-on glue to patch it up. It is part of the gear along with the bow and arrow. Doesn't take much effort. Once you are done fixing it, carefully take the boat out to the lake and gently slide the net out. It takes half an hour to finish setting the net on Annie's side. In the morning, while walking, I found a big mushroom when I was about to gather firewood for cooking. While eating, suddenly a yacht crossed the lake. At first, we thought it was a routine check. Who would have thought they announced the weather would get colder? For the safety of the contestants, the organizers specially provided each person with an extra fishing net. This action, midway, sending additional equipment, surprised everyone quite a bit. I really do not understand, but for Klaus, this is good news. Because last time, he ruined the net. And the others are also happy because, with a new net, they can cast it elsewhere, increasing the chances of catching poachers. Meanwhile, Maddie is busy fumbling around to make a fire pit, using rocks and soil to create a fire hole. After 2.5 days of work, a big fire was lit. Now, there is no worry about being cold. While lying in the camp, the luckiest person is Annie. She set 2 nets and caught both big and small fish. She cut 2 big pieces, cooked them, and tasted. They were very delicious, much richer in protein than beef. As night fell, all the contestants returned to camp to rest. On the 18th day, the entire playground was covered in snow. The cold weather makes it harder to catch fish. At this time, Soren goes fishing at the lake. Half an hour later, a yacht arrives, probably a contestant, who could not take it anymore and left the game. The scene shifts to Soren lying weak in the camp. A doctor comes to check on him. He has not had protein for 10 days. Tired from building the shelter, he almost fainted. Called for rescue to be safe, but the doctor decides Soren forced to withdraw due to the risk of organ failure. Soren is frustrated that his long-standing efforts were interrupted. The newly built shelter could not be enjoyed. Had to be stopped. Everyone is upset. There is no other way. Soren had to pack up and leave. If it were not for being busy building the shelter, he could have lasted longer. Now there are only 4 contestants left. Klaus Lowe, who does not eat meat, finally caught some fish. One small catch is not worth the usual daily harvest. Simple preparation, eaten raw, sticky but delicious. With conditions becoming increasingly difficult. Survival life is truly brutal. Contestants endure thirst and hunger as winter approaches. The strong can still freely enjoy delicious grilled fish, turning the competition into a paid vacation. The last one standing will win $500,000. On the 19th day, a snowstorm swept across the playground. Klaus knew the small tent would not hold up. So, despite the strong winds, R.A. tried his best. He used ropes and branches to secure it tightly. Made sure it was safe before going inside the tent. The cold was unbearable, so they stayed in the camp today. Maddie was here, also contributing to the shelter. But since there was already a display stand, it was not used. She directly used Snowstone to turn back. The fireplace gotta say, this move was brilliant to return. Back at the camp, she used a thermometer and saw it was 39 degrees. A high fever definitely showing flu symptoms. The most important thing now is to quickly light a fire for warmth. Because there was not enough dragonfire stored earlier. Starting a fire now has become quite difficult. Reluctantly, she took out some cotton. The team worked together to create the program. Thanks to the soft material, a small flame quickly appeared. She kept blowing steadily. The fireplace was quickly lit. But she had barely sat down when there was no cover above the fireplace. The heavy snowfall outside quickly extinguished the flame. In this situation, she did not have time to fix it. Just sitting there enduring the cold at the camp. Meanwhile, Annie was also resting at the camp. To pass the time, she started using fishing lines to patch up the tears. Honestly, Annie is very meticulous. So far, she has been incredibly skilled. Up until now, she has not felt homesick, thanks to the wall she built a few days ago. Otherwise, she would probably be half frozen by now. While everyone was resting at the camp, Rick calmly went outside. He needed to check the fish traps to see if there was any catch. Carefully, he went to the lake to inspect. The traps were cleaner than his own face. What a disappointment. Hoping for better luck, he checked the fishing line from afar and saw the float sink. But when he reeled it in, it was just a clump of bubbles. How frustrating. When he returned to the camp, he noticed many footprints on the ground. Judging by the size, it is probably fox tracks, but in this weather, hunting is impossible. The only option is to obediently return to camp and reinforce the tents. Once everything was secured, everyone lay down to rest. In the camp. On the 20th day, the sun finally came out. Klaus untied the ropes at the shelter, returned to camp, and when he put on his pants, he realized he had lost a lot of weight. To avoid being disqualified for being underweight, so had to find a way to gain protein. Took out the precious rice hook and brought the fishing rod to the lake to try his luck without using a net because the program prohibited it, and he found fishing more convenient. He kept casting the line over 10 times by the shore. Finally, persistence paid off. After 2.5 hours, a mackerel was successfully brought ashore, even though the fish is not big, but if utilized well, it could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. As you know, foreigners go fishing. And once they are done, they usually leave without fishing more. He went back to the camp to grill the fish over charcoal. The grilled fish is crispy on the outside, tender on the inside. Its protein content is 50 times higher than beef. At the same time, Rick was also getting ready to head out to sea to fish. Compared to the other contestants, the only advantage is the makeshift boat. But this allows his net to be cast deeper, with the hope that the more he pulls it up, the heavier it gets. He saw something on it, and at first, He caught a small fish, but unexpectedly, there was another one. A bigger one. In the end, he harvested 5 fish full of protein. Oh my gosh, such incredible luck unmatched by anyone, making the other contestants look and wonder what they might think. Along with a few small fish caught earlier, Vic now has 9 fish worth of protein, and is the contestant with the most food reserves. If he keeps up this pace, he will surely return to camp as the champion, satisfied and enjoying a delicious meal. The taste of fish is simply unbeatable. This is definitely the dish that other contestants dream of. Back to Maddie, who woke up feeling much better from her cold symptoms. She quickly lit the fireplace to warm up. After resting a bit, hunger struck again. She went to the lake to fish. In this land, resources are scarce. The complex tools she brought along proved useful. But today, he still came back empty-handed. Time has passed to the 21st day. And the temperature dropped a few degrees. Even the lake in front of the door has frozen over. Rick shivered in the cold tent. This temporary shelter, lasting this long, is already quite impressive. Then, to reduce the symptoms, Rick planned to make a sealed space. In the camp, the method is to dig a large hole in the ground. Then dig a small trench outside the tent to draw air and cover it with wood. This way, when the fire is lit, the whole tent will be warmer. He hurriedly started testing his creation. And lunch was simply just a grilled fish beside Maddie because the stove in the camp was built very poorly, so she wanted to make a fire inside it immediately. She went outside and gathered a pile of large stones to surround the head of the bed. They were used to place the lantern and prevent smoke. She even opened a skylight. Through it, a blazing fire roared up, which also made her feel a warmth she had never experienced before. Stepping out to check, she saw that the smoke ventilation worked quite well. Now, she could finally rest assured and lie down in the shelter. But if we talk about the shelter, the most comfortable shelter is still Annie's wooden house despite its ability to resist wind or keep warm. Both are great when night falls. Some people sit in the camp eating grilled fish, while others go hungry in the camp. Time quickly reaches the 22nd day. While the other contestants are still asleep, Klaus has already taken his fishing rod to go fishing. As the saying goes, the early bird catches the worm. It did not take long to catch a big fish. Due to the lack of food, he did not stop this time. He continued to cast his line twice more and caught another one. In just half an hour, he had 2 protein-rich fish. Klaus was very excited and brought the fish back to camp. Meanwhile, Annie had just woken up and started cleaning. Strangely, there was a puddle of iced tea at the entrance. You are the only one for hundreds of miles. Clearly, some small animal left it behind. But with your strength, it is not enough to hunt. In such cold weather, you are still at the camp doing crafts. If we talk about the most comfortable contestant, it is Rick. He sleeps until noon, then goes to the fish storage, grabs a small one, and crawls back into the tent to enjoy it. Meanwhile, Matthew's situation remained bleak. He went an entire week without replenishing protein. His body suffered greatly as he looked at the photo of a beautiful woman in his hand. Tears streamed down her face non-stop. Suddenly, a yacht appeared on the lake. No one knew who could not take it anymore and wanted to give up. The scene shifted to Maddie, who had been waiting on the shore for a long time. She said that over the past few days, the shelter had no lanterns. The cold made her freeze. The reason she wanted to give up was not finding food and tools. The complex supplies were almost rusted in the camp. It was blamed on the lack of resources for this generation. In the end, she packed up with regret and left the competition when only 3 people were left. By the 23rd day, Annie started gathering firewood continuously to prepare for winter. At the same time, the other 2 contestants also started gathering firewood. Notably, they also received emergency rations. Annie could not stand it, so she cooked a bowl of cereal to eat. But this would not last long. To survive, they needed to find a way to get protein. On the other side, Klaus started fishing, not hoping to get full, as long as it was not a waste of effort. Meanwhile, Rick was not worried about food. She also made a single bed for herself. Otherwise, she would have to sleep on the ground in this cold weather, which is not ideal. Time quickly passed to the 24th day. The clear skies made Annie very happy. Over the past few days, she kept thinking about new survival strategies. In such cold weather, going into the water would not guarantee survival, so she planned to making a small boat by using waterproof tarps and wrapped branches. Then making oars from branches. Finished, Annie excitedly started. Unexpectedly very fitting. She did not dare to be careless and began to spread the small net over there. Rick also started rowing the boat. But unfortunately today using the auxiliary net did not. This situation started to make him worried. What would happen if the food supplies at home ran out? He really did not know. At that moment, a yacht came rushing in. It turned out to be Klaus's distress call. He said he had a history of kidney stones. These past few days, he would been having dull abdominal pain. To be safe, he had to ask a doctor to check it out after some discussion. The doctors believe that surgery is not necessary in this case. It is better to try and compete until the end. Currently, there are 3 big players left on the field. Who will be the ultimate champion? By the 25th day, a squirrel suddenly appeared in front of Rick. The animal had quite a plump body. But the distance was too far. Before he could shoot the bow, it disappeared. While Rich was observing, he spotted a chicken. A wild one, standing completely still. Unfortunately, in this situation, he could not shoot because any movement would scare it away. He had no choice but to return to camp. After sitting and waiting all morning, Rich's hands were frozen stiff. He hurried to light a fire to warm up when suddenly, there was a noise outside the camp. Rick sees a herd of wild animals. In their eyes, they are easy prey, but the rules of the competition do not allow it. As the reindeer herd gradually moves away, Rick can only swallow his saliva. Meanwhile, Klaus wakes up and sits by the door to warm up. Once ready, he heads to the lake to fish. The reason he does not use an extra net is because he finds nets very troublesome, preferring to spend. Fishing time is over, it is better than getting into cold water. This makes the probability of catching fish very low, standing by the shore. From morning till afternoon without seeing any fish bite, it seems today we won't escape hunger. On Annie's side, today is the day to check the auxiliary net. She eagerly gets on the boat to go to the middle of the lake. The net is gradually pulled ashore, gently harvesting 2 small fish. This method seems to be effective. When Annie was resting by the shore, a speedboat quickly approached. It turned out the crew was resupplying equipment midway. Due to the weather forecast, predicting it would get colder and the lake would completely freeze over. To prevent the remaining contestants from catching fish, they even prepared ice-breaking drills, life-saving equipment if falling into water, and a kind of fake bait to attract real fish. Why not just order takeout for them to save time? When night falls, Annie stores the sliced fish in the snow to preserve it. But this way the fish will probably be gone by tomorrow. At the same time Rick is also preparing to handle the fish. For him protein is not a problem. On the 27th, Klaus plans to go ice fishing on the frozen lake. Before going, he carefully prepared all the equipment. Fearing that the big lake might be dangerous, he decided to try the smaller surrounding lakes. Looking at the lake surface, it was solidly frozen, but in the wild, he did not dare to risk checking. Klaus wore a life jacket, and even tied a rope around himself to ensure safety. First, drill a hole at the edge, to ensure the ice is thick enough to support your weight, before bringing your gear to the center of the lake. Then start lying down at the edge, fishing without any specific purpose. Meanwhile, Rick on the other side is also ready with his gear, bringing an ice auger to another lake. Unlike Klaus, he walked straight out to the middle of the lake without worrying about falling into the water. Quickly drilled a small hole in the ice. Avoid sitting for too long to prevent hypothermia, then lit a fire. Sat by the fire and started fishing. But it was unclear whether there were few fish here or just bad luck. Both of them sat on the ice for half a day without any results. Rick even accidentally lost the bait. In the end, both returned empty-handed. The most clear-headed one was still Annie, even though the show provided ice fishing gear, she thought. Ice fishing was too difficult and preferred to stay and clean the nets, which was faster. On the 28th day, the show announced a health checkup. Surprisingly, none of the 3 had major issues, except Klaus who had itchy toes. The doctor diagnosed it was just a fungal infection, not frostbite. Keeping the feet dry will heal it. After that, Klaus went back to the shore to fish to increase the chances of success. He took out the net and set it up around. By this time, the other 2 had already gone to the middle of the lake with a prepared trick. They easily placed the net in the deep water and just had to wait. On the 29th day, Vic began to pull in the second net. Just opening it, I felt a deep longing in my heart. I wish my wife and kids were here. I relaxed and then went back to the boat to check the nets. Coincidentally, the first net caught a 7-pound flounder, along with a few small fish. What great luck, the net placement was perfect. When I pulled everything ashore, I had caught a total of 7 or 8 fish, making Rick the only. The winner of the competition, known as the King of Fish, returned to camp in an indescribable state of joy, no longer having to worry about meals for the next 2 weeks. Meanwhile, Annie, since her net caught no fish, decided to bring her gear to the lake. Afraid of falling through the ice, she first tested it with a rock. Then cautiously moved to the center of the lake and drilled a small hole. But after half an hour, no fish took the bait. It seemed like her efforts were in vain again. While the contestants are anxious about the fish, Klaus decides to climb the mountain to honor his father. He brings along a photo and his father's ashes, packs his gear, and heads up the mountain. He finds a spot to light a fire, prays, and then releases the ashes. He says this helps bring peace to his soul, so he can focus on the competition. After the prayer ceremony, Klaus feels uplifted even though he still has to endure hunger today, but everyone deserving until the 30th day. Klaus's plan is to make a wooden raft to go deeper into the deep waters. Fishing gear is indispensable. He uses simple wood, ties it into a frame. Not wanting to put in too much effort, so he places a backpack on top as a float, then drops the raft into the water for testing. Anyone who went to elementary school knows, if this thing can stay upright, it would be surprising. Just sat down not long ago. The raft started to gradually sink. No matter how hard he tried, it was useless. After more than 10 attempts, he failed. If the bottom was lined with wood, this would not have happened. Next to Rick, not sure if it is fate or not. Today he checks the spare net. Rick harvested a huge haul of fish and meat, and brought it all back to shore, along with the fish caught a few days ago. Now Rick is completely self-sufficient in fish and meat. With his current stockpile, it is certain the championship will belong to him. Meanwhile, Annie prepared to take out the fish and meat stored yesterday but spent half the day digging in the snow without success. Seeing the fish, it is obvious that it was definitely taken by the small animals around here. It is really unlucky. I told you, we can't hide food in this place. Now we just have to accept being hungry. It is already the 32nd day. The large lake in front still has not frozen over. The contestants have no choice but to stockpile wood for the winter. As long as there is enough wood. When it snows, we will feel safe in the camp. Over at Klaus's place, there is finally some progress. After a week of hunger, there is finally some improvement. Checking the auxiliary net, we caught a big carp. Too hungry to bear it, he rushed back to cook the fish. Freshly grilled fish smelled delicious. He quickly replenished his energy. Even though the fish was not very tasty, it was certainly filling. Protein is many times higher than beef at this time. Benrick is also cooking fish in the camp. For him, dinner can be enjoyed freely without worrying about running out of food by the 34th day. The contestants' condition starts to decline. Their empty stomachs begin to miss their families. Meanwhile, Klaus takes out the long untouched fish head to make soup while waiting. Waiting is not idle. You can go fishing by the lake, who knows? You might catch a big fish. At this moment, Annie checks the nets. The good news is that there are fish biting, and she caught 2 at once. But she is not happy at all. Instead, she starts thinking about the meaning of staying here. Will Annie be the next contestant to withdraw? Who will take home the $500,000? Let us wait until the 36th day. The surrounding environment is covered in white snow. Even the lake in front of the house is frozen, which is not good news for Rick because he still has to use a small boat to check the nets. Luckily, the ice is not thick. He can still row the boat on it. Fortunately, he also caught an old huton fish. But it was not the result he wanted. At the inspection camp, there were still about 7 or 8 fish left. He was tired of eating the same dishes. Rick just wanted to catch different prey for a change. He had not used his bow and arrow in a while, so he was a bit rusty. He practiced diligently at the camp gate, hitting any small animal he encountered outside with one shot. Klaus quickly packed up his belongings early in the morning. He decided to go for a walk up the hill. He said, staying in the tent for too long was driving him crazy. Sometimes, getting out and breathing fresh air can be quite beneficial. But on the way back, his heels started hurting. He did not know if it was frostbite or just from the cold. As soon as he got back to camp, he called for help. Including this time, he has called 4 times already. The doctors quickly brought the necessary equipment. They conducted a quick check on the wound. They determined it was caused by the environmental temperature. In this situation, just resting for a few days would suffice. After a general discussion among the doctors, They suggested Klaus endure for a few more days, knowing he could not withdraw for that reason. His face seemed rather disappointed. Then started gathering materials around the area. Meanwhile, Annie was fetching water by the lake. I thought she would head back to camp to boil water for cooking, but unexpectedly, she only took the fish heads and guts, leaving them by the shore to melt down for the little birds around to eat. I have to say, does she even have time to make fish head soup to drink? Without eating anything in the morning, she went to saw wood around the area. After just a few minutes, she already felt dizzy, exhausted, and weak. If they can't catch any fish, they might give up soon. On the 37th day, the temperature dropped to -10 degrees. Annie was still waiting for the lake to freeze so she could sit on it and fish. But the current thickness was not enough. On the 38th day, the lake on Rick's side had completely frozen over. The makeshift boat could no longer be used. He removed the waterproof tarp from it. During the busy times, homesickness welled up, and Rick started to cry again. To lift the spirits at the camp, he used the waterproof fabric he had just removed to quickly set up an outdoor kitchen. Sitting inside, boiling water, and lighting a fire. It felt completely different from being inside the tent. Klaus had neglected it for days now. Also preparing to resume operations. Using a fishing rod to catch fish that have been starving for days. He has to find a way to set up an auxiliary net. Starting to pull the rope bit by bit, probing around the lake. The ice layer is not stable, very easy to slip. He cautiously walks to the other side of the lake, taking 2.5 hours. Finally managing to set up the auxiliary net. Then waits a few days to see if there are any fish. Meanwhile, Annie, to ensure the thickness of the ice, even tested it by hitting it over a dozen times with a rock. Judging by the situation, it is completely reliable. 800%. But she still decided to wait a few more days. In her free time, she even played with the ice. On the 39th day, Rick, while practicing archery at the entrance, discovered traces of prey. Judging by the tracks, it is likely a fox. But the tracks around here are messy. It is hard to determine the direction. Actually, 2 days ago, Vic used fish soup to lure the fox. But until now, there has not been a single sign of it. To increase the chances of success, he even poured fish soup on the tree trunk at night, hoping to attract that fox. Day 41, Klaus checked the auxiliary net. From a distance, he saw 2 ugly ducks caught in the net. Their wings were tangled in the net, unable to move. Klaus got very excited and hurried into the water to catch them. Afraid they might escape, he bit down immediately. He heard the bones crack. The 2 fat ducks died instantly. It must be said, his luck was truly amazing. I never thought that during such tough times, we could still enjoy such a grand feast. Without saying much, he sat directly at the door to handle the duck meat. Once the feathers were plucked clean, he discarded the duck's head and wings. Then, he went to the riverbank to remove the innards, leaving only 2 pieces of rich, fatty duck breast. High-quality ingredients often only require the simplest cooking methods. Grilled over high heat for over 10 minutes. Crispy golden roasted duck on the outside. Tender on the inside, fresh out of the oven. Starving for days, finally getting to eat meat. Oh my gosh, oh dear parents. This flavor and the feeling of eating it are absolutely perfect. The meat is not dry or tough at all. Packed with at least 100 times more protein than beef. In less than 2.5 minutes, he finished all the meat. As for the duck frame, he threw it into the fire, such a waste. If you add some seasoning and use it to make duck porridge, it would be so fragrant. Over on Annie's side today, she finished the last perch fish. If they still can't find food in the next few days, they will have to consider ending the competition. She carefully carried her gear to the lake and carved out a small hole. Started fishing even though the bait was very attractive. But the fish around here refused to bite from morning till evening. Until the ground where she was lying started to feel damp. She realized the situation was serious. Quickly packed up and returned to the shore, looking around to see the lake had turned a deep brown color, which meant that it would not be long before the ice would break. Maybe today we still can't avoid going hungry. The next day, the program team came to check everyone's health. All the contestants had lost about 10 kilograms each. But it had not affected their health yet. By the 43rd day, Annie spent the whole day by the lake but still could not catch anything. The game had reached its end. She went back, made a call, and asked to withdraw. The team drove off-road vehicles and snowmobiles to reach her quickly, even though Annie performed well from the start, but Winter had too few fish. She had to give up without any complaints. As the only remaining female contestant, persisting until now was already very impressive. When Annie withdrew, there were only 2 contestants left on the field until day 45. Rick checked the net under the ice, not knowing if he caught any fish. But right after that, fish were continuously pulled ashore. A total of 3, while Klaus's side was not so lucky. Checking the fishing lines, no bites at all. Luckily, a few days ago, they managed to save some duck gizzards and hearts. Grilling 2 simple skewers in the evening was enough to call it a meal. On day 47, Vic unexpectedly found something good at the camp. He spotted a small squirrel on a distant tree branch. After many days, seeing a living creature again, he could not afford to be careless. Prepare the bow and arrow, aim at the target. Hit the heart with 1 shot and successfully take it down. So excited to see how great my archery skills are. Looking at the piece of meat on the squirrel. Finally, no more eating fish every day. Back at camp, started skinning it, cooking it, and then hung it on a skewer to roast. At night, enjoyed the delicious meal. Roasted squirrel tastes almost the same as rat meat. But in this situation, it is truly a rare delicacy. On the 48th day, Klaus checked the fishing again. The result was still the same. Too hungry to bear, we went up the mountain to gnaw on ice pops. They were crunchy. Sweet all day long, the 2 of us sat outside to rest. No one wanted to give up. At the last minute, on the 49th day, the group doing a surprise program driving a 4-wheeler to the location. Both were surprised. Thought it was a routine health check. But the program announced a shocking news. Due to the upcoming harsher weather, the surrounding roads will also be congested. If anything happens, the rescue team won't arrive in time. After discussion, the program decided to award the championship title for both. Everyone was happy to hear the news, because they would not have to continue enduring here. The prize money will be split between the 2 based on their assessment. But given the current situation, this seems a bit unfair to Rick, because his supplies are still enough for more than 10 days. While they were talking, their families arrived. Seeing them made all the efforts seem worthwhile. After that, the 2 of them took their family to visit the wildlife for the first time. For the first time in history, 2 champions appeared at the same time. What does everyone think about this result? Let us discuss it in the comments section.